right, I'm assuming we are good to go. Welcome to the Public Art Commission for Thursday, August 21st. Yes, we are on air, excellent. So, August, back to school, all that good stuff. And I'm trying to get caught up from July, so let's start with roll call. First of all, I guess we have Commissioner Taylor.
Present.
Vice Chair Miyagi.
Present.
Commissioner Migdal.
Present.
Commissioner Silverstein.
Present.
And then Nadia Chuprina, Elise DeMarzo are here with us, and of course, Chair Kavanaugh present. So we have a few of our commissioners missing. Do I need to actually say who they are missing? No. I didn't think so. I don't think I usually do. So just a question on agenda changes, requests, or deletions. Do we have any tonight? Okay, great. I think we have a fairly short one. Seems like it. And then oral communications, I'm guessing we don't have any since there's no one here. Oh, you have an oral communication.
I have an oral communication.
But you're, from a member from the public from our.
Yes, we kicked off the traffic control utility box campaign. We're calling it Red, Yellow, Go for Art. And we've had 6 submissions so far, 6 requests for applications. Sal Pizarro is going to write about it in his column for the Mercury News, so we'll get that. I was in contact with Jaime Rodriguez with the city and the traffic department, and they've got another 9 that are becoming online between now and end of February. So we'll have about 15 total, which is great. So we're off and we're running. And I can't wait to see what some of the proposals will look like. It's going to be interesting. So we've expanded the areas to San Francisco, San Mateo, and Santa Clara counties. I think we should get a good submission. And I think what we want to do with the new ones becoming online too is we'll select artists for those as well. So as they come online, they'll be ready to go. So we're off and running. Please get it out on your networks. Let everybody know. It's going to be fun.
All right. So let's move on to the approval of the minutes. These were the July 17th minutes, and in fact, I wasn't here, so I won't be able to move, but I did read them through. So did anybody have any comments, deletions, additions, any changes? Anybody see anything that looked like it was misrepresented or inaccurately represented? It was a full meeting, some interesting stuff. Okay, and there were some actions that were approved. So anybody have a motion on those?
So moved.
And a second? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
No opposed and 1 abstained since I was not here. All right. Moving on to our financial report from Elise.
Okay, so we have some nice, fresh, new financials for the beginning of the year. So if you look at the art and public places, the page 1 of your the 2 stapled pages. So this is the CIP. So you see the carry forward, the $50,000 that was added for this year, which puts us at a total of 2,002 and
202.
Or 202, yes, I'm sorry.
Right.
And change. And then actual costs, we did go ahead and issue a check to Mike Sabo for the $12,258. So that is our first expenditure of the year. Commitments, those items are committed, those are encumbered funds amounting $47,776. So the available budget before the approved future items is $142,875. And then for PAC approved future projects, that means these are not officially encumbered or under contract, but the commission has approved the funds for them. The Public Art Master Plan for $25,000, Artist Reaching Communities for $50,000, and the Multimedia Artwork for $50,000, totaling $125,000. Which would leave a CIP available budget of $17,875 should all those PAC-approved future projects go under contract. Are there any questions on the CIP portion of the budget.
No, I'm just digesting again to remind myself of the things from last year, so I was stuck back up at commitments, just reminding, so like the Stanford one, so these are the ones that are, as you said, encumbered, so we're not necessarily paid, right? Because like the university,
Right, there's
we
things-
haven't done anything, but we are committed there, so.
There are things that are
yeah.
paid out.
Exactly.
But they're under contract. The commission couldn't then
right.
decide.
Sure, sure.
Oh, I want to take those funds for the fountain and do something else.
Yep.
So, but the PAC approved future projects, and this is part of what prompted the item on the agenda for the discussion about budgeting.
Yeah.
Was I know there was some discussion about the possible reallocation of some of those funds for the artist reaching communities.
Right, but so reminding me, in the public art master plan, when, back in March, when we did earmark 25,000 for that, but because our RFP has just gone out, congratulations, it went out yesterday, everybody hopefully saw that. So that means it's committed, I mean, but not under contract, so it could potentially be changed, although we have no intention of changing it, right? I mean, that's sort of the 25, but we had 50 in as a budget, so we actually need to find another 25 to make up to get to the 50, which
the
is sort of what we had
so
talked about for this this academic year, this fiscal year. Okay, so does that make sense to everyone? And I think I'm just, sort of thinking out loud here. And then the multimedia artwork is one that I guess I thought that was approved last time.
It was.
Okay, so then why would
It's
it not have
approved.
gotten up to, because,
We're not under contract yet.
but she's hired, I mean,
She is, but the contract is still being drawn up with the scope of work.
I
and
see.
The contract has to be approved by council prior to that being officially encumbered.
so you mean the contract for the whole construction has to be approved by council, because they wouldn't approve our,
Any art contract over $80,000 has to go to council for approval.
maybe I didn't know that. Okay. So it will be moved into the commitments shortly, presumably,
as the
because it's in the process.
as soon as the
That's what
contract is
threw
signed.
me, okay.
Mhm.
So it's really the artist reaching communities, which was the one that we were gonna talk about. Okay.
Correct.
What's the threshold of these, 80,000?
80,000 above 80,
Mhm.
80,000 and above.
Mhm.
Below that, city manager.
Yes, that it doesn't have to go to council for approval. The commission can approve the funds, and staff can go ahead and enter into that contract, which goes through the normal chains.
Okay. Did anybody have any questions? I know I just did my thinking out loud there for everyone, so hopefully that was not too laborious.
Where's the other 25,000 come from for finish, for the master plan? Did you find that somewhere else, or?
Well, that was intended to be part of the discussion this evening about budget reallocations.
Got it.
And I don't know if you had been with us when we had that initial conversation about that and reallocating from the artist reaching communities. That was actually not, this commission was not we didn't have our new commissioners with us yet. We didn't. I guarantee it wasn't because.
Yes.
No, it was in fact one of these, I'm pretty sure, because it was, we had our outgoing commissioners who were kind of on the verge, and we said we should kick that to a special meeting discussion, and then, anyway, so I think that might be new to some people, most people at the
So
table,
then-
besides maybe vice chair.
Can I ask, and maybe we're going to discuss this later, what is the artist reaching communities? I don't know if we've discussed it.
It was
Maybe I
this
don't
idea
remember.
of having essentially two different artist residencies here within the city. And there were some great ideas thrown around, but there has not been the staff capacity or the space to really support implementing that project. And so it's just remained uninitiated for some time now.
So we are gonna talk about it some more, or no? Bill?
Yeah, when we, so we're just looking at the budget right now, and then can finish the budget, and then we'll go into our staff comments and then our action items, and in that it is item number 3.
Okay.
But, so we'll definitely be able to have a discussion about it then. So were there any other questions, particularly on this CIP budget, the first page? Because then there's also a maintenance one that will be on the.
Well, and there's
Oh.
there's another budget. So the second page, and I apologize, it's the first time you've seen it, and it's a little confusing. But because this is the first year that we were able to get percent for art funds just transferred into the public art fund.
Municipal,
Yeah, for municipal projects
Yeah.
for this upcoming year, as opposed to having those funds remain with the construction budget. So for this year, $30,300 were identified in municipal projects for this upcoming fiscal year. So those were transferred in to our CIP, but they live under a different umbrella. So these are funds that could easily be pooled, for instance, to maybe enlarge to supplement the funds for another Percent for Art project within the city that could use some additional funding, or they could be pooled for a completely separate project within the city. So this is the first time you've seen this budget, and I apologize, it's a little confusing, and somehow Tony DeCenza ended up in there, so we will rectify that. But I just wanted to make you aware, there is another $30,300 in CIP funds, but they are earmarked for Percent for Art.
municipal percent per art. I mean, that's
Correct.
yeah. But so, Anthony is a temporary project, and so that would never have been a city, so that's why you're saying it wouldn't be there?
Well, we're not sure how, just in our paperwork.
I see.
In the computer, somehow he came out in this, because this budget item was open specifically to house the municipal Percent for Art funds separately from our CIP,
Uh-huh.
and Tony was funded through CIP funds. So we will get that fixed by next time.
So would the, then, budget not actually be, because you said that's 30,300, but then it goes to the 32,780. I guess I was just not clear on how that,
We will have to clear it up for next time.
because it is adding that in there? It's just
Right,
odd
because
that-
those are the funds remaining to be paid to Tony, so it has added them to the
I see,
30,300.
I understand, okay.
Mhm.
At least is the 30,300, because there was some public construction project for which, so this is the, what was the project, or like, is it a?
Could be a series of projects,
It's a
right?
series of
Okay.
projects where the individual budgets were very small, and
I
so
see, so they threw it all together.
we've really been working with our partners in budget and throughout the city and with legal to revamp that. So we're not hampered with trying to do these very small Percent for Art projects
Right, right,
in
right.
multiple sites that take too much
Okay.
staff time and they're not
Yeah.
impactful.
Great.
If someone were interested to see what comprised that 30,000 from the city coffers, for example, is there a listing of the projects somewhere?
I can tell, it's 3 different projects. I
Oh.
think 2 of them were transportation projects. And I can email you the follow-up on what the third one was, but it was essentially, one was bike safety and transportation implementation. There was another one that was transportation related, and then I can't remember the third. The third one was just a tiny piece, a couple $1,000s.
I guess it was trying to motivate my thinking around, would there be something to tie into whatever those municipal projects were? Were they in a certain area? Did they span the city? I mean, if they are transportation related
Right.
with the bike boulevards or something, there might be something that we
Absolutely.
would think through
Mhm.
around that as we fund it. I don't know. I guess I was just, that's where I was.
And I think that's something, as we go forward with master planning and think about how we want to allocate those municipal Percent for Art funds, looking at, where are the funding trends coming from, and where do we want to focus that attention? So
Mhm.
those are absolutely great questions.
Okay, so that will be a new budget we'll see then monthly?
Yes.
An update?
Yeah.
Okay, and then we
There-
also have our,
yeah.
so we'll always see the CIP, we'll always see any municipal fund balance, I guess, and any activity from it, and then maintenance, of course, right?
Mhm. So the maintenance budget, we have $30,000. And then this evening, we will be coming to you with a request for Universal Woman for the irrigation, so that's for $4,910. And then we did, that should be above commitments. And then we did contract with James Moore to do some confirmation on A Moment of Bliss, his piece out by the Baylands. Needs a little bit of work. There's some paint that needs to be restored and a little bit of weathering, as to be expected with a metal sculpture out on the Baylands, and some settling that's taken place. So he is undertaking that work. The 4,900 item will be coming up on the agenda, so we can discuss that at that time.
Anybody have any questions on any of those?
Great.
Okay.
Okay.
keep wondering what our little tapping sound is. I don't know if I'm making noise. Okay.
I don't
Let's see,
think it's you.
I've lost my place. Staff comments. Ta-da, back to you, Elise.
Okay, I don't have a ton of comments today. So I guess the first one
Is there a presentation
is
behind
something
me?
exciting that happened in Greer Park. We had one of our colleagues in Parks sent us some images of one of our more obscure artworks in Greer Park, From Sea to Shining Sea by Jane Zielinski. And so apparently there was an irrigation issue that washed much of the soil out from underneath the top corner of the piece. And so a couple of the tiles were inverted. There's a lot of sand in Greer Park, essentially, that things rest on, and the sand all just ran out. So our parks crews alerted us to it one afternoon. Nadia went and met them early the next morning, and they were able to get crews in. Yeah, later that day. So it was remedied within 24 hours. It was really great. And thank you to our partners in parks who are always looking out for us and very, very helpful when we need some heavy lifting. It does. So anyway, but that's one of our more obscure artworks. I hadn't seen it for a couple years into my time here in Palo Alto. It's on the back end of Greer Park. So that was some excitement this past month. And then you may have noticed when you came into the lobby that renovations are currently underway. Syed Alavi's piece that is suspended from the ceiling was removed last Thursday in preparation for some of the other work taking place to help protect them. So that was a really, it was an interesting day, and Nadia coordinated all of that, yes. So again, thanks to our partners in facilities and our crew and Public Works and everybody who had to assist us in making that happen. So that is down. It is intended that the artwork will go back up at the end of construction, and there is supposed to be some uplighting on the banners so that when they're reinstalled, they'll be easier to read. It's interesting, Nadia, if you go back to the image of them rolled, you can see, how stark the text is, when you can see the pieces properly. The patination is really beautiful, but hopefully the new uplighting will really help remedy that situation. And the glass piece, the light ladder, that was also next to the door in the lobby, so that's moved into the back of chambers.
Temporarily? Or
We'll just see what happens with the lobby and if it makes sense to move it back in there or if it's better off
Seems
there.
like it's cited.
Mhm. We'll have to just see how things fall out. But that is it for announcements.
All right, so I guess moving on, we are into our action items. Oh, that's what you were saying, Nadia, you're coming back over here.
Driving, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so the first item is the one about the accession from our Coverly artist,
Mhm.
right?
So hopefully you had a chance to look over the staff report. Sharon Shinnon hopefully you all have had a chance to go visit her studio in her time at Coverly. And she donated over 5 years ago these 2 pods. And they're enormous pieces. And they have been in storage for that entire time. Because of their size and their materials, they're very fragile. And so they've simply been wrapped in plastic and in the basement of the Art Center in storage. The pieces are meant to be hung. And just the nature of our city facilities, most of them have these popcorn ceilings, and we're very limited on circulation space. So there really was not a safe or logical place to hang it where the piece could actually be appreciated, where we were certain that the ceiling could hold it. So as she was moving out of her studio, and she and I had been discussing this for a while, I donated these pieces, why, can't you find some place to do it? And we've really struggled and tried, and we haven't been able to do it. So she said she would like to have the pods back, and in return, she would offer us one of these two artworks that are very iconic to her current work. They're beautiful pieces. They are too big, and so we did not bring them in for fear of damaging them, because they are thin wire, but they are things that we would be able to care for much more easily than the pods, and we would be able to exhibit them. So this is what she has offered. The first piece here, it does stand out from the wall a bit. Kakopeli. Wire, linen, thread, paper, paint, and glue. And you can see she is really stuck with this, use of organic forms, and she works a lot with wire and really mirroring root systems and plant organisms. They're really stunning in person, and unfortunately what doesn't come through in the photographs is the play of the pieces against the wall with the shadows is also really an important piece of the work. And then the second piece is quilt, which again, when you look at it, it looks almost as though reeds have been woven together to create that quilt. So it is nylon, screen nylon, wire, and paint, but it really has a very organic look to it, as though they're threads or roots or even little thorns woven in there. So that is the proposal that she would like to put forward and that staff supports, and we wanted the commission to consider this evening.
There's a piece, the first pieces have to be hung from the ceiling somewhere. These can just hang on a wall, and there's some spot where these can go.
Yes.
Okay.
And they can be stored more easily. Those other ones are really quite large, and so they take up a lot of our storage space, and the fear was always that by having them lie on their side, that they are compressing and getting damaged, essentially, while they're just sitting there.
The pods are almost 6 feet tall.
Yeah.
So are we is she giving us both, or it's option 1 or 2? Are we voting, or?
She's offering a choice of one or the other.
Choice of one or the other, and we decide as a group?
Yes. It is up to the commission.
I think I was just curious, so if you had option 1 and option 2, I mean, kind of to Jim's point is, I was just thinking, how do we decide, I mean, I think you guys are rotating works around, right? And so how would you decide which one would be more easy to display, or what is the criteria for displaying, or, is there a way to help us in that capacity versus?
The intent was that we worked with the artists to bring you options that staff feels like are supportable, that we can show them, we can store them. These are 2 pieces we know we can care for. There are pieces that were more delicate that she did offer that are just not feasible,
Yeah.
in staff's opinion, to really be able to care for or properly show.
And so do you currently think you're going to be able to put whichever one up? So you've located
Absolutely.
a spot? Because obviously if she'd we've had these and we haven't been able to display them, it would be nice to be able to display.
We
since
would,
she's an outgoing
right
artist,
now
but-
with so many things moving through City
Yeah.
Hall, I don't know that we're going to hang it in the next month when we actually receive the artwork, but we will hang it soon.
And City Hall is the primary place where you look as a venue for?
Well, it's one of the major places, and there's a lot of musical artwork taking place in City Hall right now, so I'm loath to bring something else in since we're moving things. When the construction is finished, then we can cite things more readily.
And I guess my last comment only in discussion would be, all the pieces are large. So it's not as though these are, while they're smaller, they're still large. 4 feet almost, and a little bit, over 3. So it's not, I can understand that they're not 6 feet, but they're still big. So I wasn't sure in our kind of 8-foot ceilings in the City Hall, whether it was still a concern that we couldn't even hang this. So that's kind of the main.
We're confident we can find places to display these works adequately.
Have you seen them in person, or are you just seen this
Yes.
great shots?
I've seen them many times in person. And in fact, Quilt was part of one of the Carberly group shows here in City Hall lobby, so it's been displayed in the lobby before. But Kokopelli has also been up in Sharon's studio during several of her open houses.
Well, I'm going to defer to you guys, having seen them in person. I mean, if I were to, it's hard to see, like, just rendering. I'd say I prefer the first piece, but I'll defer to whatever you guys want to do.
I agree with you. I think the pictures just don't do justice to the pieces, and I'm with, I kind of like the first one, option one, but I think that both look good, but I just, to be able to see them in person, how they could really kind of leap out at you and to actually see them. But just by the pictures, I'd go by option one.
I agree. Option one.
Yeah, I emailed earlier. I liked option one. Actually, more said, if I'm not there, can I vote still? Actually, I really like it, maybe because it's a plant, but there's something about it. And I'm a quilter too, so. But I really like option one. And then also, question: could it go in a library or some other public space where it could be, if there happened to be room? I don't know, because I love it. Number one.
We typically have shown a lot of our work in the libraries, but with what was the main library now,
Yeah.
Wicanata closed and Mitchell Park getting ready to open, we've been
Oh, the
down some
libraries are
walls,
closed,
some
yeah.
other public wall space. So we're anxiously awaiting all of that to become available again.
All right, motion for option one.
Second. Oh. Need ready?
That's
or-
Kathleen's job. Hang on, did I take that?
Yeah, no.
No,
Well,
no.
I mean, I think, I think I'm ready to just take a vote. I'm just still trying to decide. I really kind of liked this one Bupa that we had, Pod 5, so I'm just disappointed that we can't keep it and display it. So I'm just, I'm still back on that. Sorry, I'm a little slow.
Perhaps there's a way you can display it at home.
Right.
I can
An
introduce you to
acquisition,
the artist.
right, a personal
It's cool.
acquisition. Okay, so I had a motion to accession, so I guess the motion is actually to accept the de-accession recommendation and then to accession Kokopelli option one. And then I heard that was from Commissioner Migdal, and then that was the second from Commissioner Silverstein. So we're ready to vote unless there's any further discussion. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, great,
All right.
thank you.
Okay, so now item number 2 in the action, which is allocation of funds for the Oliveira sculpture. And this has to do with its new position in the courtyard at the Palo Alto Art Center.
That's right, in the Art Center courtyard. So hopefully, some of you have been able to go by and see Universal Woman installed in the courtyard. She is beautiful. And when we installed her, we of course met again with our friends in Parks who agreed to, divert some of the sprinklers and whatnot so that she wasn't getting sprayed directly. However, it quickly became evident, as you see in this picture, there is water on the base because there is enough that is blowing from the adjacent sprinklers and settling on the bronze, which is not good for the piece. So we went and got some estimates for what it would take to remove the spray sprinklers and install a drip irrigation around her. And at the same time, while we've got everything torn up, we're going to go ahead and install a light so that she can be viewed in the evening, which especially when there are night events and the sun starts setting early. There is Joe Sachs, one of our crew members, with Nadia doing tests with lights from different angles. So it would be important to make sure that she's lit at night so she can be properly admired. And there you have that, you can see that beautiful silhouette, but that's just the existing light, and then that's with the additional. So the proposal is that if the commission would allocate $4,910 for the change of irrigation surrounding the sculpture and the addition of lighting for Universal Woman. And it would replace the planting that we tear up.
Is that going to be all grass around that statue? Okay.
What is it now? I can't.
It was grass that we've unplugged in
Okay.
anticipation of doing the
Okay.
work, so.
Okay.
Just to try and preserve the sculpture,
Yeah.
we've tried to divert some of the water.
Well, the good thing is the drip irrigation's better for the drought, so there's a secondary benefit.
Of course.
In the spirit of the drought, I sort of wonder, don't do irrigation, don't do grass. I mean, I don't know if that's within our charter, but I would move to say, do something else, do stones. Or, I mean, $5,000 to do irrigation is a lot to do irrigation, and it feels like it's a wrong decision for, I mean, I don't know if that's our purview, but like as a citizen of Palo Alto, I don't want to irrigate more grass in an area. And I think this could actually set off the piece nicer if it were done with stones.
Stones.
I love the idea of lighting it, so I think definitely light it, but I sort of,
Right.
I think it's not a good call to plant grass and irrigate grass.
Well, as you know, the Art Center just recently reopened, so unfortunately, this is pretty newly reconfigured, the courtyard and everything, so they had put quite a bit of planning and thought
Okay.
into the grass areas, because they do tend to use them for Play and Glass Festival, Pumpkin Festival, different things,
But
so.
this area, the pumpkin stuff, like the glass stuff is on Embarcadero. I'm trying to think where that is. I don't know
Oh,
exactly.
it
They
comes
have
all
it
the way
in the inside as well.
Yeah,
I mean, they used to do it just on the inside, but.
Okay, so they need it just for, yeah,
I
okay.
mean, it's really part of the Art Center's programming.
Their landscape plan.
So it's hard for me to visualize it, okay. Then,
I think you make a good point, and this was probably done before the drought, all that planning, so,
can we ask him to revisit, given the drought?
I can ask them.
That's like a really,
I-
like blow up in your face kind of thing?
My concern is more about getting the work done to preserve her and get her lit, but.
If there's no irrigation, if there's no sprinklers, then just turn the sprinkler off, she's not gonna get damaged.
Right, it can be raised. My guess is there's gonna be some serious pushback from the Art Center, because they do seriously program that space for special events. They have gatherings there. Part of the reason we cited her on that end of that island is because they have speakers who go up there. They have different events on that island. And so it's been programmed as someplace that would be soft.
Okay.
As you can see, there's lots of pathways and hardscape around it. And so really changing that to stone
yeah,
would
yeah.
drastically change the character of that
Okay.
courtyard.
I'm just curious. The base, it's not flat, is it? It's the inside where she's standing, is it?
It's a
not,
concrete base.
but it's
No,
the inside part.
the bronze.
The bronze.
Base.
Is it, it's not flat, it's has some.
There's a little bit of
Right?
texture
Okay.
to it.
Because in one of the pictures, it looked completely flat, so I was just curious how that pedal could be there, but now I see.
It's textured slightly. For the most part, it is flat, but it is textured.
All right, I'm gonna ask one more troublesome question. So it seems to me that it's not, like the art commission funding sprinkler stuff shouldn't be something that comes out of our budget. It should be something that comes out of the budget for Parks and Rec. And if they're doing something where they're wasting water because they have a thing that sprinkles like that,
Right.
as opposed to a drip, then that shouldn't be something that we fund. It should be something that it's less the, I mean, the art is a kind of a collateral damage thing because they're doing something stupid with water, right?
No, I hear you.
That's what we're talking about, putting in drip irrigation. Do it anyway, and we just get the benefit from it, and we don't have to pay for it.
Right, but because there's no plan in parks to replace that irrigation. So the only driver to change the irrigation is our charge to preserve the artwork. So while they shut down parts of the irrigation to help us with that, and usually that's sufficient, in this case it wasn't, because the neighboring fixtures were still blowing water onto the piece.
So if we went out there and manually turned off the things that were damaging the piece, that's not an acceptable approach. And then they can deal with their lawn thing however they want. I mean, I don't know, you have irrigation at your house, like if there's a sprinkler head that's bad, you twist the sprinkler head and shut it off. If that's the
Right.
concern, let's just do that, and that costs a couple $100 and we spend $500 on a light.
Right, but they don't want to be stuck with dead grass all year, so
But that's
we've
not
done
our,
that
that's the.
temporarily.
So we've done it temporarily, okay. So
Right.
they did it at our request.
Yes.
All right. Okay, enough, sorry.
I mean,
Yeah.
I understand your point, but the maintenance funds are to deal with these kinds of issues to protect and preserve the artworks. And this was something that we thought would be mitigated with cutting off a couple of those sprinklers, and it wasn't enough to do it. So it's gonna take something more than that to preserve the artwork.
Did you have, when you guys cited this, did you have the landscapers or somebody or from the city or somebody looking at these kinds of things before? I mean, and it just
We
kind of
always do.
backfired?
Because you don't actually irrigate a lawn with drip irrigation. I mean, I don't think that's gonna, I mean, I don't want to keep going on this, but that's not the way to do it. You do it with a spray. And so if the proposal is to do drip irrigation, you're still gonna have a dead lawn, right?
Well, the idea, the kind of grass that the landscape architect for the city has selected that can go in there
Will be drip.
will thrive with the drip
All right.
irrigation.
So that was my question is, are they going to replace, I mean, isn't this grass dead at this point? So they're going to take this grass out and replace it. And so, I mean, part of it is, maybe it would be helpful or, I mean, obviously, this is a critical item, but at the same time, to have had the backup to understand what the 4910 pays for. I mean, electrical is expensive, I don't know where that's coming from. So is that 2/3 of it, is that half of it? Are we paying for planting to be that we killed basically by doing this? And is it entirely ours? Is it partly the art center, because it's a joint kind of a thing? I mean, it's just kind of understanding a little bit of the process, because I think it's true that we do want to maintain our artwork, and it is our maintenance budget that maintains the artwork. So I can get behind supporting that. It just would be helpful to understand, I don't know, maybe what all this is, if that's a typical kind of fix.
Most of it is irrigation. We're able to get the electrical done with in-house city support, and so that's really costing us almost nothing.
Oh, so we're not, so it's strictly, this is not light, we get lighting for free, so this is.
We don't normally get lighting. for
In this
free.
case, we are.
This case, we were very fortunate that our friends in electrical are doing us a solid, so.
So the irrigation change is not, it is buying the new plants and doing the landscape, and like paying for the city to do
It's-
this work is in
it's-
addition. So it's
it's
the
fi-
whole thing.
It's fixing everything,
It's like taking this whole courtyard and basically fixing it so that it's appropriately.
just on that island, not.
No, I know, yeah, but I mean the landscape that this artwork sits in.
Yes.
Okay.
So, and they will potentially rethink the notion of what plantings are around there so that they, yes, so they
So it's more
successfully
water,
are putting drip irrigation on plants that want drip irrigation as opposed to some sort of spray and so on. And so, I
That
think.
is the intent.
Had we anticipated all that appropriately, we wouldn't be in this case, but otherwise, I mean, we paid how much before, do you remember, at least, to cite it? Was it $1,000 for the base or something, and $1,000 for people's time? I think it was not an expensive maintenance item.
Well, yes, and considering the value of the gift that's been given to the city, it's.
The piece
money
was a
well
gift?
spent.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
okay.
it's a very significant donation.
But do you remember, am I remembering correctly, that it was a pretty insignificant amount that we paid to put
For
a,
the foundation and whatnot.
Mhm. I feel like it was.
I don't recall what the exact number
It was
was, but
1,700.
Yeah, so my 2,000 wasn't far off. It was
Yeah.
like 1,000 for labor and 1,000 for materials or something. I mean, it was about somewhere in there.
Mhm.
So I think all things being considered, this work, to me, would have been done sort of at the time that they were citing it and thinking that through, and I just think it was sort of sequenced improperly.
Okay,
So,
Yeah.
thanks for giving the context.
yeah, sure.
As long as to Jim's point that they don't come back.
and
you know,
spray.
Yeah, the drip's not working because it doesn't work with this plant, you know, and
Right.
then we have to do,
Or maybe they will
re-up it again.
consider, yeah, right, yeah.
I just have one
Rocks.
more
Yeah.
quick
Then
question,
rocks are
not
gonna-
about the irrigation per se, but I'm hoping that we're gonna get rain soon. So I'm just wondering, will the foundation, if we got rain, would the foundation still be affected by the rain? Is that something that we should be thinking about now, or?
The piece is
do we
meant to
not
be
have
an
think
outdoor
about it?
piece. The
Okay.
idea that it is getting watered on sort of an every other day basis.
Okay.
During the non-rainy season does deteriorate. the
Okay.
piece a little bit, but
So
it
we
is
won't have to
intended to
worry
be an
about it.
outdoor piece and
Okay.
be waxed regularly.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, any other questions or discussion? Someone like to make a motion on this one?
So moved.
Could you restate your movement of your motion here, just so that we get it clear? Thank you.
Move to approve the $4,910 for the change of irrigation surrounding the sculpture and addition of lighting.
All right, I will second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Any opposed? I don't think so. So that motion carries. So we will move on to number 3, which is the CIP budget allocations. So this one, I do think we need to back up a little bit to explain where we were and what this is. So Elise, do you have that context, or do you want me to offer that? Which,
It's up to you.
well, as I'm
Let me know.
flipping through my notes, why don't you start and I will add to it, because this was even predating me. So
Okay.
everybody in this room, except for Elise, was not here when the Artist Reaching Communities was approved and allocated by a former art commission. And so I guess as a point of introduction, what I can offer is to say that I suggested in the springtime, as we were looking for funds to create a master plan for public art, that this item had been sitting here for the entire duration of my tenure so far on the commission, and it had been around for some number of years, and Elise can probably elucidate on that. And the question became, in a city that has many arts districts, if you will, I mean, theater arts, performing arts, in addition to, the Art Commission, were we the right body to actually have an artist in residency program? And it had always been an issue of how the Art Commission would implement a program like that versus the public art program. And so it had kind of sat as, I would say, a lower priority because it takes a lot of time and effort. And as you see, I think on a monthly basis, the public art program has a lot going on. And certainly in the context of the private development percent for art, there's an increase in the amount of work the public art program is doing, in addition to the maintenance, and all these other database and so on, the things that you've seen over these few months. So, given that context, I guess, Elise, can you add anything that I might have possibly left out just in a background?
Sure. I think the original idea behind this, it was really born out of this excitement of some other cities that have successfully brought in an artist in residence, and also encouraging more thinking about art becoming part of the fabric of Palo Alto's daily lives. So some of the things that were part of discussion and the formulation of those ideas, were what if we had an artist in residence who, worked with public works and creative solutions? What if we had someone who chose a neighborhood or chose a community group? Maybe it's by location, but it could be bike riders. It could be people who take the Midtown shuttle. It could be, all different kinds of communities of people. And they found a way to interact with them in a different way. So participatory art, whether it was something longer term or creating something that was very temporary. So the idea being the commission wanted to create an opportunity for more of these kinds of art interactions. The issue being, of course, that it takes materials to support that artist, and we're very limited on space. We don't have a facility, so we don't have an indoor space where an artist could work and store materials. There were a number of limitations, and there were so many other demands on staff time that we never were able to really get it initiated. Since that time, you all may have seen recently, the Art Center did have an artist in residence, Aaron Toole, who came and made cups in the project room there, and they're still on display, I think, until this weekend. But so it's something that the Art Center has been able to undertake, but they have a building and a facility, so it makes it a little more of a natural fit for them. That being said, I love the idea of having an artist in residence, and I think it's a great idea. I think it is something that could be reevaluated as we go forward with the master planning process about what the best way to initiate that kind of vision or that kind of intent might be.
And I think that was an important component that I remember, which was, again, if you take a step back and say you're trying to create a master plan that sort of sets a guideline for a 5 to 10 year period, you would say, what are the various ways that we reach the community with public art? And if one of the answers to that question is by way of positioning an artist in residence in the community, then that would be something that would result from the master plan. So, and, I mean, let's be clear that also we were looking for funding for how to get this thing off the ground and not have to wait till the new fiscal year. And now the new fiscal year is here. We had identified the 25,000, which was available in our budget at the time, but we knew that was a paltry sum and wasn't going to get us very far. So we were looking for other funding. I mean, it is true that we are now into the new fiscal year, and when you look at our budget as we did earlier, I mean, there are not a lot of funding sources available. I mean, yet again, even though we've just gotten our new budget, because if you look at what we have without sort of mining that 50,000, if we've committed on our artwork in our lobby, which was another significant commitment, and this master plan, I mean, we really don't have a lot of funding. So this is really the conundrum which is in front of us. And so that's the background. Let's open up for discussion and questions. And
I was just thinking that maybe it might be interesting. I've always noticed that how there's a lot of people now riding the buses, I think, than in the past, and how a lot of the benches are pretty plain. And I thought even, you know, that could be kind of a fun project. Maybe somebody could work with the community to paint different benches near a bus stop.
so do you mean
So I
as
thought
a?
maybe if we can get like another branch of the city, like the transportation department, to see if they have a budget where they could help.
But the
with, like,
point here is to have
something.
an artist in residence or not, like the concept you just raised, could happen with or without an artist in residence, unless there's something I'm.
Well, maybe they can, like, if we, or we don't even have to have, maybe it's just a
the
community
idea's a good
kind of
idea.
thing. Or it could be an artist and, it could be either way, actually, I think. That we could either have somebody just who's like a supervisor. It doesn't necessarily have to be an artist in residency, but it could be something, maybe one person who's really familiar with painting benches and could help kind of gather people together. Does that make sense? And you can
the idea,
clarify.
but I think that,
But I just, I'm not sure.
You still need the staff time
Yeah.
and the other things that were limitations for why we would get rid of this now, and maybe that gets built into the master plan, or use that like other 30,000 from the muni budget, you know, something like that. But it kind of also seems similar to the light boxes where it's a great project, but there's not the staff time.
Well, I'm wondering, like, if we did a partnership with, like, another group within the city, like transportation, or, I don't know, there's kind of quite a few places we could probably tap into that might help financially if we did want to do it. That was just my 2 cents.
To speak to your point about the bus stops in San Jose, and I think throughout the county, the VTA is redoing their bus stops, so that's a source of funding for that. And and I think an artist in residency is a very ambitious program, especially for a city the size of Palo Alto. And again, like everybody has said, staff time is really a premium, and you need somebody to really look after that program, and they just don't have it here in Palo Alto. Even San Jose doesn't have an artist in residence, so, in the largest city here in the Bay Area. So, again, I think it's a very ambitious program. I think it's something that in the future maybe can be looked at. And the funds that we have, I think, would be going to be put to a really great use for this master plan we have coming up.
I agree exactly with that, and like the idea of that extra money then going in, so we don't just have 18,000. We have 40 something or whatever.
So that was one part I didn't think I articulated that very well, but I think you're making the point, which is that I think at this point, because the RFP says the budget is $50,000 and we've allocated 25, that we would only take 25 of this 50 to allocate to the master plan to cover that. We have asked in the RFP that if people had additional scope that they wanted to include, that would be covered, but we don't yet know what that additional scope is, whether we would want it. And so I would not feel comfortable allocating more than the 50,000 at this point, so that would still leave us, then take that 25 and add it to the 17, so we would be back up to at least 42,000, which,
Seems reasonable. It seems like a lot of things come up during the year, so it seems better to have a bigger budget to
Right,
start with
since
than all
we've
these
just
so many
started.
random things. Yeah, we're just starting.
21 days into it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We're broke.
I'd echo the things that Dara and Ben said, and I think that the city of Chicago doesn't have an artist in residence, and I think that there are far more projects and artists that are out there that you can just contract with to get really exciting stuff built.
Yeah.
And then the fact that, I didn't realize that the Palo Alto Art Center had an artist in residence. That's the place for this. I feel like it's outside of our charter. So I would motion that we strip the funds from this and use it for other projects.
So that sounds like a motion, and so I'm going to ask, does that seem like the appropriate way to do it? I think what we would first do in the action is that we would just say the artist reaching communities, we would strike that, so we're sort of putting that 50 back up to the front, and then what we would have to do is bring back another action? Or could we amend this motion to then allocate 25 of that to our master plan?
You could do it all in one action. You
Okay.
could say, you could move to unallocate the artist reaching communities, and then
Earmark,
to
yeah.
go ahead and allocate the final 25,000 toward the master plan, which would then free up the other 25,000 just unencumbered and
Yeah.
unearmarked.
So that's where I was sort of just adding on to your motion, just by taking that second step.
I make a friendly amendment to Jim's motion that we take the 25,000 for the master plan.
I second those motions, that motion.
All right, any further discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 No opposed, so motion carries. That's great, thank you. All right,
Okay, thank you.
so, kind of on a similar topic, we're now moving into our non-action items. Topic number 4 is the Public Art Master Plan and an update. Not sure what all
It's
needs to
out.
be said. Right.
Hooray.
Pass it around.
Exactly.
So we're very excited. The master plan is out, and it's August, and that's better than we thought we were going to do.
Yeah.
So we're feeling really good about that, and you all should too, because I know you all put a lot of time and effort and thought into this. So thank you all for your help on that. We are looking forward to seeing how many proposals we get in. The deadline is September 23rd. We are definitely distributing it to our networks, Northern California Public Art Administrators, to the Public Art Network and Americans for the Arts, and also some of the people we know who have done these and done them well. So we hope that they will nibble and submit something. So if you have any other questions, of course, Nadia and I are both available for any of your questions anytime if something comes up.
So I guess I was thinking that, I don't recall that we had created a selection committee, a review committee, and is that true? And in the RFP, we say that there'll be members of artist community and so on, so I'd be interested how we're going to create that and when, and who would be members of that.
We're working on that in the next couple weeks. It was our initial thought that we would have the chair and vice chair as 2 members of the commission on there. And then probably have someone else who is experienced in master planning, possibly someone from a neighboring city who has just undergone the process, who could be there, and then, of course, some staff. So that's sort of what we're thinking, but it hasn't been formulated yet.
Okay, so is that something that you handle from your role, and then that just, so we don't ever have to get involved in that at the art commission level? Like, because usually when we are funding something, we assign a committee, I guess, like selection committee, like the art lobby or, you know, the artwork in the lobby or at the golf course or something to that effect.
Right, we sort of quit doing
Subcommittees,
subcommittees by
right,
project.
yeah.
And so it's really been sort of which commissioners have the experience there. But in this case, because the chair and vice chair really spearheaded this initiative and have been engaged with it, we were
Okay.
thinking that the two of you would be engaged, but we're open to other ideas.
No, I mean, I'd certainly like to participate.
And I think it's, excuse me, I think it's important to have somebody from outside the community on the selection panel as well, because then you have a real different view of
Yep.
how they look at things.
Absolutely.
Okay, and so then that will close, I think, in September. And then between the end of September 28th, I think, if I recall.
September 23rd.
Third, sort of looks like
And
an
so
eight.
we'll probably try and so we'd probably come back in October with a proposed person for the commission
For the
to
commission.
consider.
That's kind of exactly where my brain was going, is when is the next time that we visit that whole thing here at the Art Commission? So that sounds right. So the October meeting, that should come back to us, so that is exciting. Great, well, thank you.
On the September meeting, we'll get an update of how many applications, submissions.
Well,
Yeah, I
although.
believe the meeting is September 21st. Oh, it's
Ours is the 18th, so it predates the close of the.
We have a good estimate of how many.
Well, I can.
Right, I mean, there's a lot of
I
people
can-
who come in at the last minute, right?
I can certainly let you
Having
know
done
how
that
many
myself
have
a
been
few times.
received to date, but yes, it has been our experience that the last
Yeah.
24 to 48 hours is when they all come in.
FedEx leaves on the Tuesday and it delivers Wednesday by 10 a.m. And trust me, many of us make very good use of the early delivery. Okay.
Exciting.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Congratulations.
To all of us.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
So I'm comfortable with sort of that tentative plan of vice chair and chair being representatives from the commission.
Sorry to bother you, was this a historical review?
No.
I'm assuming, though, that the, whatever proposals we get, that anyone on the commission, and I don't know if the public can the public review them also, the proposals that come in?
There's an initial staff review. Usually
Okay.
the selection panels are a closed staff review.
Okay. So if a commissioner wants to see proposals that have come in, we have to, how does that work?
You can contact staff.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then you can circulate them, or how does that work?
Generally, you can come in and view them. Usually, we don't circulate the proposals until the selection panel has had a chance to view them.
Oh, no, I mean, that's fine, that's what, I'm not asking to see something ahead of time. Once you say, okay, here's our bundle, and we have 15 proposals, is it, I'm fine with the decision-making body being
Right.
you guys, but I
Right.
would like to at least see something and then be able to provide input to any of you.
Of course. So the selection panel would usually bring it down to a certain number of people, depending on how many we get, that then we would bring in for interviews. And so we can certainly update you on.
Okay, so if you get 20 and you filter it to 5, the 5 that's in the subset is the one that the broader commission can review.
Mhm.
That fair?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a good question just around process, I think, just as far as, because I hadn't even thought about it previously, but it's a kind of a public call. So I think what Jim's asking is, are the documents then that come in public? I mean, and so can anyone look at them? So could the competitors thereby, say, can I go look? And I don't,
Yeah.
or us, or, a general.
Generally, it's done with the selection panels using members of the public and using the panel rather than distributing those.
Well, sure, it's generally done that way, but is it a public? I mean, it seems like the city wants to be transparent.
Of course.
And I think the question is are they somewhere in the art center or in your office or something that a person in the community could come look at them?
At a
see the
certain
scope
stage, Once we
proposed.
get to finalists, if they
Yeah.
wanted to, they could.
Yeah, okay, so I think that's kind of the question.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, shall we move on? Are there any other questions, comments on that one? All right, so we are at subcommittee reports, and first of all, I had a question, which is, have we had an update on who's on the subcommittees? Because I feel like I, at the moment, don't know. There was a kind of a call at one point, and we said after the retreat, we would kind of get people signed up, and I'm not sure we ever did that. So I think I feel like we are not.
I think we did put together a list, but then I don't recall what where it landed, but we can circulate that following the meeting and
Yeah.
revisit that.
Well, let me just do a quick poll, because if I may, I don't feel like we got to enroll our new commissioners in any of these, so Dara, you're
I feel
looking
like
like
we
maybe.
talked about it at the retreat, but I don't remember exactly where it
Oh.
landed. I know you're just
Looking back at the notes.
saying, yeah. Like I'm saying, I guess I don't know which one.
I don't think we decided.
Okay, and the fact that at least one of our commissioners doesn't know which ones she's on, if any, I think it would be good
Okay.
to reissue that, if you would, to all of us, because I think, while I remember us talking about it, I feel like we sort of said, oh, let's kick that to the retreat, and then at the retreat, I think we didn't get through all of our items, and so I think it is still a little bit of a work in progress. That being said, I don't believe we have a governance report, would that be true?
That is very true.
And then innovation, I think we were sort of looking to our friend Jim here on some of the software. Would you like to take a
Sure.
second to bring us up on that one?
Yes, so I think there were a couple things that we talked about, one of which was a tool to inspire folks, particularly on the private side, with here's examples of great public art. And I've had a chance to look around at a few of the alternatives for photo sharing, and I think that having one that's a really good mobile app, where you can, if you see something you like it and you can easily upload it, you can tag it, is an important criteria. I think also having a high resolution image, so like Facebook, for example, downsamples every image, and just for art, I think in particular, that would be bad. So full resolution, and then a good desktop client, so that you can also just view it on the web and you can render it here. And so of the alternatives that I looked at a couple of the, like Shutterfly, which is okay. It's too much of an orientation towards printing, I think. Instagram is great, but it's mobile only. The desktop, it's Facebook downsamples things. And so the one I netted out with, which is like a photographer's kind of thing, is Flickr. And Flickr has just updated in July their mobile app, and it's pretty good. And their desktop experience is really good. You can click in on something and it zooms right in. I think it's a good choice. And so then the question becomes, how do we all post to it? And so I created an account. Art Commission is the username, and then I think it's something like, I can send you the credentials to Elise and Nadia, and you guys can circulate them. But the thought that I had was that we could all use the same login. And so you all have it on your phone, you can log into it on the desktop, and I think we should probably create some different albums within there to say, this is like monumental things that are just amazing that we're never gonna have the budget to do, Cloud's Rest or like The Bean or anything like that. But it's fun, but then here are things that are inexpensive and kind of innovative. I don't know what those buckets are, and I think that we should think about it so that when someone comes and sees it that's external, that we've thought it through and it just doesn't seem like a hodgepodge. And I can send you an email with some thoughts, and then you can circulate it for people to provide feedback. So Flickr, basically, good desktop client, high resolution images, and a great mobile client, and it's a brand that's, it's Yahoo, it's going to be around there for a long time. The one thing that I didn't see, which would have been nice, is a short URL, which is like, flickr.com/. But I think that, we can just live with that. I mean, if you have the URL, you can forward it on to people. It's just a little clumsy. We may be able to do a bit.ly or like a short URL shortener kind of thing. So that was the first piece. Any questions on that, or thoughts, feedback?
No, thanks for doing it, and I think even if it didn't have a shortened name, if it was used internally for us and we can kind of pull it up, I guess your hope was that it was gonna be distributable.
Well, it's the kind of thing, if someone comes to a meeting, you
Well,
can say,
yeah.
that's what I was hoping, because I think it should be very public, and, so I interrupted you.
Well, just at the level here where we have presentations and then we want to call something up, I think it would be easy enough for us to call it up and reference that. It
Yeah.
almost becomes our own, part of our toolkit,
Yep.
our own commissioner toolkit or something. And so, but I hear where you're going, which is a bigger, broader, more public and simple.
Yeah, well, but I think I can get a URL shortener thing, and it won't be as elegant as flickr.com/PAPAC or something like that, but it'll be fine.
Okay.
So I'll send that to you guys, and then you can circulate it out. The second piece was one that, around just mobile accessibility of the collection, and Elise and I have talked about it a little bit, and I think that the key thing is not to spend staff resources or incremental staff resources or call in any IT resources from the city in order to make things accessible. Second criteria was to have an app that doesn't cost any money. Third criteria would be a company that is going to be around for a little while. And I've got some time scheduled with the guys from Google. I think I mentioned an app called Field Trip. It's okay. I think it's 75%. There's some things on there that, like, it prompts you for too much. It prompts you for, so I'm going to give some feedback to the product guy before I go and input things. And I want to see if I can come up with a clever way to, the industry term is called scraping. So you go and you crawl, you pull every image and you pull all the text for something that's publicly available. And then once you have that, you can just upload it as a superset to whatever app it is, whatever app you have. Now, the one thing that would have been nice if we had an RSS reader is that it would automatically update. My sense is, and you just want to confirm this, Elise, is that it's not, the pages aren't RSS enabled. But there may be a clever way to scrape on a monthly basis, and it would find things that are new, and then it would publish those. So just kind of recapping then, the app that I think would be good, it's okay, is Field Trip. That's the first one I'd want to do. And if there's an easy way I can figure out to publish to that one and then to other ones, then we'll look at doing that. And I'm just going to do this on my own as a citizen, not on behalf of the city. I need to figure out if there's any. If the Google guys will allow that. I'm hoping that they'll just sort of trust me as a commissioner, even though I'm doing it in a personal capacity, and not have to have a contract with the city. So that's something I'm going to get clarified with the product manager from Google next week.
Well, that's one thing I agree with you. Sometimes you ask for too much information. Why do you need to know the birth dates of my great-grandparents, you know? And it gets down, sometimes it gets to, you know, where you're spending 15, 20 minutes just entering data in there just so you can use something, you know, and it just, I think the simpler the better, you know, when you register and stuff like that, you know, it's just.
Oh, you mean for a user to
Yeah.
have the app? Oh, yes, actually, that's a really good point, so I'm just to assume. So the way the thing works, if you haven't seen it yet, it's a simple app called Field Trip, and it has a web equivalent called Field Tripper. So you need to download it, and you have to have a Google credentials to use it. So that's hundreds of millions of people, but it's not going to be everybody. So not everyone will use it. But it's on Android and it's on iOS, which are the two major platforms. I don't think they build anything for Microsoft's stuff, but that's like a percent of the market. Any questions or other thoughts about, and the broader goal here was, gee, what can we do to make things discoverable? We talked about Story, which was a QR code-based thing. Actually, the one thing we didn't talk about is plaques.
Right.
And so I don't know what the urgency is with regard to creating them, if it's something like, oh, we can do it in 6 months, or if you wanted to have a solution, we talked about having like a, I don't know, like a brushed aluminum kind of thing.
We've ordered plaques for the
Okay.
pieces that needed it.
All right, so we don't have to worry about something like that.
No, the idea was if we were gonna have the QR code actually printed on it, then we wanted to move forward with that. But Story also offers just a vinyl decal that can easily be pulled off of it. So we didn't pull the trigger on going with Story, but we do need to get identification
So-
plaques on the artwork. So we just got simple aluminum ones.
If we did something where, so I love the decal idea. Can we go back in the event that we have, let's say that eventually, and this may be something to ask the city for, is a URL that's, I don't know, some short URL that could be put on there with a decal. I don't exactly know how this would work, but I think that having something that you could just put on there so that if someone went there, it would redirect them to the stuff that would say, okay, you can view it on our
Right.
URL here, you can download this app, here's the different ways, but a really short, simple URL that could be a decal that when someone saw it, they'd type it in their phone, and then they could go and get the other things that would help them discover all the resources here.
So like a bit.ly address kind of thing?
I'd rather have it be not.
Art in paloalto.com or something.
Something like that, yeah. And let me look into what I can find out for, I mean, you can buy a short URL for not that much money, and I could sort of buy it for 10 years, and I don't know, it would be like a couple $100. Let me look into that. And I can circulate a list of potential URLs that are available for purchase that we could use as a decal. Does that make sense?
It does. I think we just have to talk further about then
Yeah.
what it's actually linking to, right?
Yep. I think the page it would link to would be a page that has the collection, and
Right,
then
that's what I was thinking, all
the collection, and ideally, eventually, the collection page will have a couple other links that would say, maybe here's the Flickr inspiration page, like, so something that's a little simpler than the page we have now. But at worst, the collection page is, I think that's a great place to start for someone to be able to see it. I don't know how well it renders on a phone, I haven't tried it. Have any of you guys looked on the collection page on a phone?
I haven't, I just on my laptop.
I have not for a while, but
So I have two thoughts. First of all, thank you, Jim, again, for all the work. I don't know much about Google Art Project, but I was wondering, I don't know if they're doing anything with public art, but that might be something to look into.
So I spoke to the guy that runs, so Google has a couple things going on. They have so Field Trip and Field Tripper are run out of San Francisco. The Google Art Project was a 20% project for this guy that now lives in London, and his job has nothing to do with public art. It's going to all the great museums in the world and using Google's fancy cameras so that you can have like a 3D walk around the museum thing. That's their art thing, and it's one guy who, I don't know, has a very fabulous job in London.
Okay, well, maybe this can be inspiration, who knows?
I
but-
thought they added
don't know.
street art to it recently.
It might have. I think they might
sort
have.
of feel like I saw that.
Send me what you have. I spoke to the guy and asked him what the scope of it was, and the Google Art Project, as he described it, was, the Louvre and
Right,
the
yeah, no, I
MoMA.
think just recently they've expanded
I
it.
think they did the Kara Walker exhibit in New York.
Did they? Oh, okay, yeah. Because that could be an interesting way. Maybe that will be an inspiration for them.
Can you send me whatever
I'll
either
see
you guys
it.
have?
But, yeah.
Kempter Art Center is
Oh, they on that? Okay, and they're outdoor.
Street art or the Google Art Project?
Google Art Project,
Okay.
Kempter Art Center. I recently checked the website, their
Yeah.
collection is very extensive.
I mean, it's a kind of a bizarre thing. It's more like sci-fi than it is for viewing art.
Right.
Like you walk in and it's like, whoa, like.
But
here I am
maybe
with
that
the-
might be an exciting thing for people to be able to view. Who knows? It's just a thought.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to mention too is kind of, we were talking during our little meeting, I was gonna say reunion meeting, but our
Offsite or retreat.
retreat, thank you. It could be a reunion too. We were talking about like marketing ways or ways to get the collection out to the general public. And I was just thinking, there was a really cool marketing PR campaign that the Metropolitan in New York did called Have We Met? Where they had people standing next to works of art in the collection and they took a photo of them.
Oh, that's cool.
And I thought maybe that could be something kind of relating to what you're trying to do too, getting people interacting with the collection virtually, that maybe if there's a way that we can get people,
Can you circulate that, whatever was you
Sure,
found on that
yeah.
too?
But I thought that might be a fun way if we can get people to stand by works of art and, act like the sculpture or do something interacting with the sculpture or work of art, that maybe that would not only inspire them to be involved, but then also get our name out there too in a fun, kind of creative way. And maybe we can give an incentive, I don't know. You get to attend the board meeting for free.
There was a, the Summer Community Services Passport. I don't know if you all remember, we
Yes.
passed that around.
That's-
So a number of those things were, take a selfie with a piece of public art. So there have been
Did
ways.
people actually do that? Didn't we get?
I have to check with the front
That
desk
would be kind of
staff. I
fun
don't
to see too.
How would they have submitted, how did did they have a place to submit it?
They had to show it at one of the, like, the front desk of the Art Center or Lucy Stern.
Oh, and then got it.
To get
okay.
a stamp in their
Got it.
passport. And then there's also been discussion about during the opening of the Mitchell Park Library and Community Center, that there'll be some sort of, whether it's an Instagram feed or however it manifests, but that people can post their selfies with, for instance, the owls are really reflective, so we're anticipating people having a lot of fun with those Brad Oldham owls and posting their pictures. So this idea that people will be posting those.
What's a good aggregation point for that kind of thing? Like, I'm not familiar with anything where cities have done something where you have someone interacting with art. I mean, I don't know if that's, they could look around.
What you mean, once you have the photo or whatever, then what?
For
do you
the Have We
create?
Met thing, like, I'm
Yeah.
curious, like, where would
Where
you
did
see
they-
it? Like, where did you go?
That was just at the museum.
Only at the
They had it
museum.
around the
Yeah.
museum, around the
On our
city a little
Flickr
bit
page.
too, but.
On the Flickr page could be cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then we try to get the city posts, updates their website quite frequently, so they could use our Flickr page on the website
Yeah.
too. I don't know if there's a Facebook.
And also with that new
You can't
display
have a
that they're gonna
Facebook
do
page.
in the city hall,
from the city.
in the lobby, that could be something too, that feed.
The
Oh,
thing with-
yeah.
The thing with Facebook is that there's an administrative component where you have to have someone like approving content and like, you know, you'll spend your whole day like
Yeah.
taking out the inappropriate selfies from the high school kids. Like that's,
It could be entertaining.
yeah.
Not the best use of No.
Well, in San Jose, they had a scavenger hunt, but they used works of art as points that you had to make, and you had to take a picture of yourself with that. And then you check in at the end and on your phone, and then you brought up all the pictures, and then, you know, whoever made it there the fastest got a prize, and, you know, stuff like that.
What kind of participation and how would you judge the success of something like that?
Well, there was an initial one, it's the only one that's ever happened that I participated in. There was probably 25 or 30 people
Okay.
at the beginning, yeah.
Was it a lot of work to put it together?
The people I talked to, it didn't seem to be that much, but they were looking for ideas how they could expand it and what they could do to get more participation. You know, they have like Urban Dare and those things like that where you can participate, which I've done too. And sometimes they do use works of art as check-in points on things like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, interesting. That's it on technology stuff.
Right, innovation, right, thank you. I mean, we oftentimes have something from our Commissioner Toback, and I don't believe we have anything, I didn't receive anything. So our other subcommittee is outreach, and Commissioner Ross is on that one, and I don't, again, because we don't have others, I don't think even on these committees, and she's not here tonight, so I'm thinking we don't. And then ad hoc, I don't believe we have anything per se.
Can I ask an outreach question?
Yes, please.
This is for Nadia. So Nadia, you had sent out the Vimeo page before, which was great. And so we had talked about, I think in the retreat, a YouTube page. Should we just have one versus the other? You know, like no need for the YouTube because we have the Vimeo, which I think is fine. Like, had you guys talked about that?
Well, I explored both
Yeah.
channels, YouTube and Vimeo. Vimeo is used more in artistic circles,
Okay.
and it has really user-friendly statistical information, so I can track how many times that video was played in the past week, and how, you know, that sort of thing. So I don't know. So far, we have 3 videos on
Yeah.
Vimeo. The channel has been very popular. I just checked the usage today, and since we announced Martin Webb's time-lapse video in our e-news, we had over 60 hits on, you know, that film. So I'm pretty pleased with the results. So far Vimeo works, but yeah, definitely, you know, I'm very open to suggestions.
Oh,
and
no, I
ways to
just,
improve
I think it's great. I had said I'd help with YouTube, but I'm going to say I won't because we have Vimeo, so I just want to make sure I'm not dropping the ball on something. But I think that it looks great. And then who made the videos? Will we make more? Is that something that gets built into our budget or plan?
Well, in case of Martin Webb's mural, it was the artist actually who created this video while he was working on the project. I believe with Roger Stoller, it was a professional production, but it was before my time, so I defer to Elise.
It was through the media center. They had somebody who had quite a bit of experience who took this on as a project, and it was pretty involved.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in case with the Universal Woman, actually what happened is one of the art center's volunteers happened to be on site shooting pictures, and he just proposed to make this video, you know, and Joe Oliveira was there. We just made, you know, the interview done right there. The volunteer photographer put the film together, and there you go, we had it. So it didn't cost us anything. It was just his generous gift to the program.
I'm just trying to think, should we keep it in mind as new things get built or put up, or, you know, if there's a way you can find a student to make them, or, you know, I know it's difficult. That's hard.
It's always nice to have that as a takeaway.
Yeah, it
Yep.
just seems neat to be able to see this stuff. I don't know, I appreciate seeing behind the scenes because we don't get to meet the artists or see that, so I think it's a really nice thing to just keep in mind.
I have one other ad hoc item, something Elise and I talked about briefly. I know there was a field trip of sorts made to the Oliver Ranch, the sculpture garden up in Sonoma a while back. I don't know, did either of you guys go on it? No?
Yeah, it was before their
before
time.
this, before their time.
Yeah.
So there's another, we might want to do that again if we wanted. There's another one, which is a longer trip. I don't know if any of you folks are interested in it, to see the Rodin Crater and the James Turrell installations. It's in Scottsdale, Arizona.
But
And-
is it open, though?
Well, so it's not open to the public per se.
Right.
You have to have a reason to go. So doing it under the aegis of the Art Commission, I think you'll have more luck than doing it as a private citizen. And I don't know if that's within the charter of the kinds of things that's possible as for inspiration. I think it's, from the photos I've seen of it, it's spectacular. And I don't know if we could ever afford a James Turrell. I would love to see us have one. I think they're amazing.
I'm going to be in Scottsdale the end of October.
There you are. It's outside Scottsdale.
Okay.
Are you guys familiar with it? Do you know about the Rodin
No.
Crater? You know James Turrell's work, the kind of the guy that does sculpture with light, and it's essentially took a dormant volcano, and there's about 15 or so light chambers that he's created in the volcano. It's really special. Search for Rodin Crater. It's pretty neat. So I may contact them and just see what's possible, and I'll get back to you with details. They may say no.
Well, and I believe we'd have to be careful that it's, that we don't have a quorum of commissioners, so everyone couldn't go.
Ah, really? So it's better that only some of us can. You couldn't, is that right? Oh, because it's not public? Because it'd be a public gathering? We could invite anyone
Yeah, but
else.
it's a social gathering, so it wouldn't run it.
We can go into it, but I know that would be a concern to bring up.
How did you deal with the Oliver Ranch thing? Not everyone could go?
No, there weren't 4 or more commissioners that went.
Okay.
Mostly it was, we put it out sort of in the Enjoy catalog and had a lot of people sign up because you can only go to Oliver Ranch if you rent a bus. You can't go by private car. And so there's
And
a
you
lot
have
of.
to raise $5,000 for a charity, and they don't care which one it is.
They just allow you to go in, so you can charge whatever you need to raise funds.
Yeah.
And so it was revenue generating just barely for the commission at that time.
Okay.
So we were able to cover the bus and lunch and a couple $100, but that was about it. But
Okay.
it was the experience of getting so many people from the community who were really excited about going to see Oliver Ranch and getting really excited about site-specific artwork. So that,
It's pretty spectacular.
it was really spectacular. It was a great opportunity.
Have you
It
guys,
might
have
be
you guys
fun, I was
been
gonna
there?
say no, but to see the Anderson collection.
That's coming soon.
Not even here, but their home. It's supposed to be pretty magnificent, and also the museum.
I think the home
Is that the
will,
one we're getting?
right, very soon be somewhat
thought-
decimated since they're going to put most of the
They have a
work.
lot, though, don't they,
I
separately,
think we're
from what
getting-
I've been
I'm pretty
reading,
old. I think
but
we're getting the whole collection.
I
think
read
they-
something else, so that's,
Oh, really?
that had said that they had a lot more, but anyways, yeah.
Okay.
Moo Moo and what's their names?
Moo and Hunk.
On the Rodin Crater topic, I know the Museum of Northern Arizona was putting together, I thought, a show or an opportunity to go out to the Rodin Crater. And I feel like if that was last June, I mean, I wonder if it's just around now, because it was sort of, that's when I had heard about it, and it was in planning, and I feel like it was certainly 6 months or a year out or something, so.
Planet. Wow.
Well, I mean, and they had planned it for like 2 years, and it was going to be, I think, and don't quote me on all this because it's now just pulling it, but if you look at the Museum of Northern Arizona, it'll either be a current exhibit
Okay.
or a future or past, surely. Because there was a whole effort, and they had James Turrell coming to do a lecture and things like that, but it had taken, and it was going to be like a donor opportunity and things like that. So I'm remembering something around
Right.
it. But there was, and that's pretty close, because it's Flagstaff,
Yeah.
so.
No, it's Scottsdale Flagstaff, right?
Right, exactly, yeah, so, anyway, it's close to that. Okay, any other ad hoc comments, subcommittee? So announcements, which are, I had actually had on my list the Anderson Collection opening at Stanford on September 21st. So you can go to anderson.stanford.edu and actually sign up for slots of times to go. not just that day, but even subsequent days. So I would encourage you if you'd like to do that, and it's free. I also wondered, and I don't have an announcement per se as much as a question, but the Mitchell Park opening, isn't that scheduled for November, December? Am I? December 6th, okay, so I hadn't written down the date. So that is one where there's been planning going on, and so is there someone from our committee that we're not currently on?
No, I mean, there's planning going on,
Yeah.
and staff is going, but we haven't gotten any commissioners to volunteer
Okay.
to assist with that, and it would be great if we could get.
Have you
some of
asked for
them.
volunteers? I didn't really,
Yes.
okay, I'll volunteer.
You will?
Sure,
Okay.
yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
Sorry if we didn't put our
I
hands
think
on
what
it.
happened in a lot of these things is that we were changing commissions at that time. And so we were going from our former commissioners who weren't committing because they were going to be rolling off to our new ones who weren't yet here. So I think there was a little bit of a, that's what happened, confusion.
And you're really opening December 6th. That was my concern.
It's really, truly going to happen.
Sure, I thought maybe, okay, it's going to be January or February.
So the other announcement, which is not necessarily, I got a date yet associated with it, but we were going to try to create a special session with the city attorney, right, to review the private development process, to answer many of the questions that people have had over the course. And I think is the process for that you'll just maybe do a doodle poll or something so we can all figure out times.
I need to find some things
Once she-
on Molly Stump's calendar that will work. She's requested something during the workday, so we would probably try and do something, somewhat early or late in the day to accommodate some of people's various schedules.
Or I was even going to suggest lunch. I don't know if that works for people, but maybe people can, if
Would
we
that
have-
work?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, if we could do.
Okay. It's okay, I'll take a pass.
Yeah.
I'll take a
No,
turn.
then I'm actually more free in the next 3 months.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll check in with the city attorney about her availability and then send around a doodle. But she when I mentioned to her that the commission had a lot of questions, sort of, what is appropriate commentary, how much can you direct a developer about their artwork? And so I suggested that maybe she could come speak to you all directly. So any questions that you have, if you could start submitting them to me. She asked that if she had them in advance, then she could be better prepared for those particular issues and really look into them to give you good, solid direction. So any of those questions you want to submit in advance would be great, and I will send out a doodle poll with some options.
Great.
Okay, good. And then does anybody have any other announcements, sorry? For our Festival of the Arts is September, no.
This weekend.
Yeah, I was going to say it was,
Downtown.
oh, I was reading something else. My brain was, sorry. That's going to be, yes, downtown. So what is today's the 21st, so it's 23rd and 24th, right? Yes.
And then you'll send info about the ice cream social, because that's.
Oh, yeah, that
few
one
weeks,
that
and I think
was.
some of us.
That's
volunteered.
September
14th. That's before our next meeting.
Thank you for that one, that's right.
Mhm.
We did talk about that last week, but what we'll do.
1 to 4 in Midtown?
On the 14th.
Yeah.
And is that at the park, at Hoover?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. That's what I thought. Okay. And then our next Art Commission meeting is Thursday, September 18th. And with that, unless there are any other for your calendar notes, I will close our Art Commission meeting for August 21st. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.